making it. It was my first NHL 20 video on this channel, and I hope tons more to come. So this one is a career simulation of the Spittin Chiclets boys. So I have Paul Bissonnette and Ryan Whitney. So both of them I created to be even type of play, like to be even overalls and age, so that they would sim close together, and you might not like see one take a crazy lead away from the other. But I thought it was a little fun idea to throw in. I can do any players that I choose. Any suggestions I can do. I really didn't mind making it. Took a while to go through the whole simulation though, but it was a fun video. So I actually started it right here whenever he went to the Phoenix Coyotes, because he only played 15 games in the NHL for Pittsburgh Penguins. He was in the organization but never made it to the NHL really. So I decided I'm going to start it here from the team that he played the most, and almost all of his NHL career was with. So at this time he was actually 24 years old, so I started them both at 24. And at that time he was actually I was right there. So he's with the Anaheim Ducks, but he was only there for, I mean, one and a little bit of season. But he was traded to Edmonton anyways at the deadline. So I decided that I'll put him on Edmonton for the simulation, since it'll be the same year as Biz was with Phoenix. So I hope you guys like this. You guys can fast forward to each time that there's stats shown, or you can just watch the whole thing if you enjoy it. It is a long one, but I enjoyed making it, so there you go. So for this video I decided to go with the Ottawa Senators as my chosen team, as that's my favorite team. I'm not going to be doing anything with the team though. It's just going to be me letting the computer control it. I turned on auto scouting, turned on auto staff management, just so that they would do the stuff for me and keep the teams running, as I'm just simming for the purpose of seeing how the careers of the created Bissonnette and Whitney will play out as. So I also turn off injuries to speed it up, because it would take absolutely forever to go seasons without injuries, or with injuries on. 20 minutes, superstar, trades are off. That's pretty much about it. Salary cap still on. They're actually both signed for 9 years. I decided to choose them for 9 years so that they'll stay on their teams, and I won't have to look for them every single season if they start hopping around, because they are only 85 overall, so they could actually be moved around quite a bit. So we'll get into this right here. I'll check out where they're put on their lineups. So Paul Bissonnette, he's on Arizona. Because whenever he went to Arizona he was actually 24 years old, I decided to put them both 24 years old, 85 overall. 85 as it's a good mix between the high and low. Like obviously I'm not going to put their exact overalls because they would be at complete opposite ends. So I'll just view their lines right now and see. Well, actually I'll have to get to the regular season first, but they're both 85s, so they should be in the middle of the lineup. They should be put on some special teams maybe. I decided that was a good overall to have a good mix of stats. So Bissonnette, obviously he's a grinder, and Whitney is an offensive defenseman. So check out and see what lines are actually put on. So we see here Bissonnette's actually put on the second line right wing alongside Stepan and Keller, and he's on Arizona because I chose to go with him on Arizona because that's where he played most of his games. He did play like 5 seasons under the Pittsburgh organization, but he only played like 15 NHL games or whatever, so he definitely played more games in Arizona, so I decided to go with that. So they actually put him on the power play even though he's a grinder. So obviously the stats don't reflect exactly the type of people they are, but I had to increase and decrease any stats to make him get to an 85 overall exactly. A lot of these stats won't really matter, so if you're looking going, oh my god, like 87 durability or something, just something random, those don't really matter. It's pretty much just the offensive and defensive main stats, like the awareness and the shooting. So they decided to go with him on the power play. 4-man power play line 2, penalty kill line 1. Okay, so he's actually playing quite a bit. That's more than I expected, actually. So I'll go back to the main teams and go with Edmonton. He's on Edmonton because when Bissonnette played most of his time at Arizona, whenever he first joined Arizona, he was about 24. So I decided to put him when he was 24, and that was a year before joining Edmonton, but he was only on that team for 1 season, so I decided that I'm going to put him on Edmonton, and plus I'm a Canadian, so I actually liked him on Edmonton a lot. So we see here, these are his stats. So he does have better offensive stats, obviously, because he was a better offensive player than Paul Bissonnette. So they're both 24 years old. And I guess we'll see what lineups he was put into. So he was actually put on, oh, that's a good 4-man power play. McDavid, Draisaitl, Nuge, and Whitney. So that should bring him up some points. And on the 5-man, yeah, they just did the same thing with Neil. Okay, so they're both actually on a lot of special teams. He's even on the penalty kill. Wow, they put him on line 1 penalty kill. Okay, well, they're both going to be getting a lot of minutes, and they can put up some big numbers and maybe even improve. They are only high top 6 and high top 4, but sometimes this game it makes people improve higher than what they're actually rated to be, so we'll see what it turns out. At the end of year 1, Whitney actually got the Calder, but that was the only award won between the two of them. So we go to see the standings from this season, and Edmonton actually made playoffs in the 2nd seed of their division, while the Coyotes missed out by 1 point. So Biz couldn't bring the Coyotes to playoffs this season. So I'll go to Arizona first. So Arizona, just missing out on playoffs, had Hall lead their team with 73. Biz put up 35 goals for 54 points. That's pretty solid, actually. He had 10 of those goals on the power play. He had only 47 penalty minutes, even though he's a grinder and I put fighting too often. He had a couple shorty points. Time on ice per game, 18 minutes. So that's not bad at all. So we'll see how Whitney did. Well, playing alongside these two, oh my god. Whitney puts up 26 goals for 69 points as a defenseman. Wow. 17 points on the power play. I thought he would have had more than 17 playing with that crazy group of players on the first line power plays. And he averages almost 27 minutes a game. Wow. And so Edmonton actually did end up losing the first round, and Arizona didn't make it. So I'll show you guys the end of year 2, and then I'll skip to the end of year 5, skip to the end of year 10, showing you how they've done from there. As you can see in the standings right here, at the end of year 2, Edmonton and Arizona both actually missed playoffs, which really surprised me. That, well, especially Edmonton with how good their forward core is, and they just need defense, and he was the defenseman that really filled in for the team. So I'm surprised Whitney couldn't help them make playoffs for a second time. So we look at the player stats this season, and Bissonnette, he actually took a little step back, not very much. So this might be where he turns out to be as a player. He might be about a 30 goal scorer, 50 something points guy. So we'll have to see how he does. They both missed playoffs again, so they haven't had any experience there. He had 97 penalty minutes, 16 points on the power play, and he's averaging 18 minutes again. Pretty much the same lines. They didn't pick up anyone new. Same with Edmonton, didn't really pick up anyone new. And Whitney, actually, I think he stayed the exact same again. And also, he improved to a medium elite. I had him at a high top 4, and I had Biz at a high top 6, because those are the same for defense to offense. So he took a little step back too, but this might be exactly the same as Bissonnette, because they're staying fairly consistent. 25 goals, 40 assists for 67 As you can see, never played a single game in playoffs. So he has 5 years left on his fake deal that I made, so he would stay on the Arizona Coyotes. So he'll be signed until about 33. And we'll head over to Ryan Whitney. So Ryan Whitney is actually still, he turned out to be an 88 at age 28. So he actually has stayed pretty consistent until this year. He took a tiny step back, but really not much at all. He's been consistent. He actually had one 30-goal season. That's pretty crazy. He's been 60 points all his whole career until this year when he was one short, but that's not a big deal. In playoffs, they lost 3 years in a row in Game 7. 3 years and one in Game 6. So that's pretty sad to see for him that somehow McDavid, Draisaitl, and Whitney never won a single round of playoffs yet. So he's actually done decent in the playoffs, though. He's done pretty good for his points production, but it still wasn't enough for him to do a whole lot. So as we head into the awards, neither team has won a Stanley Cup. Neither team has won a President's Trophy. Neither team's made it to the finals. So they do not. I'm surprised that he doesn't have a Norris yet. With a 30-goal season, dropping 60 points throughout his career, I'm surprised that he's never snagged away a Norris. So besides that Calder, that should be the only award given out to either of them. Yeah, that looks like. So I guess at the end of year 5, neither of them has gotten anything besides one Calder.
So if anything big happens, I'll show it then. But if not, I'll see you at the end of year 10 of their career.
We are now currently at the end of year 10, and so I'm going to be going through the awards. So neither team, Edmonton or Arizona, which they're still currently on, has won the Stanley Cup. But as we see here, for the first time, one of the teams win the President's Trophy in Season 10. So Ryan Whitney's team takes home the President's Trophy. And as you can see, neither of them has made it to the finals of the playoffs. So these last 5 years of simulation, I don't see them at all. It looks like they're probably not going to be included in anything. Wow, okay, well, I guess the only trophy won in this entire simulation so far has been through the Rookie of the Year. So actually, I can't check their player stats that way. I'm going to have to view the lines maybe. Actually, I have a better way here. I'll just go to the player search. I have them watch listed. So Biz is actually in the AHL now. So to start with Biz, so that was the end of their contract year. So in this past offseason, they signed their new deals. So they're both 34. Biz signed a 1-year deal for $2.7 million, which is surprising that it's that high because it seems like they've placed him in the AHL, even though he's supposed to be fourth liner. So he's actually regressed quite a lot. So the first season that we left off, the first season of the 5 would be 2024-2025. So it's just continuing going down. It's a downward spiral. He never really came back up too much. So it went down to 13 goals, 22 points, 26 points. He did get back up to 30 one more time, but that was it pretty much for him. So just last season, he only put up 18 points. And you can see it's just because his role kept decreasing throughout the seasons. Like he was down to 9 minutes, so can't expect too much out of him whenever he is reducing the minutes. And also, you can see, I don't know how it's possible. It kind of sucks for the simulation, but Arizona literally has not played a single postseason game. I don't know why they're so bad still, considering they've had a top 5 draft pick every single draft, pretty much, except for maybe once I know some 9th pick. I just don't understand how they never made it once. So, but on the other hand, Whitney's team, the Edmonton Oilers, they've made it pretty much every single year almost. He actually signed, oh my god, as a 34-year-old, 87 overall, he signs $12.175 million per year for 2 years. So I guess he signed for a couple more seasons then. And looking at his stats, so the year that he left off, he actually scored 34 goals for 66 points. Then the year 2025 was his first 70-point season, 30 goals, 71 points. Drops down to 69 points. Then he has his career high of goals for 37 goals, 71 points. That is just crazy for a defenseman. I don't know how. I don't know how he has not won the Norris. He's put up 35, 37, 31, 33 goals, and he's never gotten the Norris. I don't know how. And you can see a lot of it starts from the power play. He's been a big scorer on the power play, 18, 13, 13, 15. Been putting up a lot of goals on the power play. He's for sure is 26 minutes, 27 minutes. So that's for him. Now they've actually only made it past the first round once out of all these years. I don't understand what's with these two guys. It's such a curse. Like to make it every single year except one and not make it past first round until this year, that's so strange. But If you look at this year, they made it to the third round, actually, their conference final, and they lost. He put up 10 goals in 17 games, which is crazy. 16 points. He did his job for sure. So, the next thing I'll tune in for is probably their retirement. If I notice that they retire, I'll tune in back then. And if not, maybe in 3 years or 5 years. So we're in the playoffs of year 12. 2031, the Arizona Coyotes officially made playoffs for the first time, and they're playing up against the Edmonton Oilers. So that's pretty funny that it took them that long to finally make the playoffs. And I mean, I guess they could be considered playing against each other, but since Biz is not in the Arizona Coyotes NHL roster, then unfortunately he is like not in the series. So there you go. They actually didn't re-sign him in the last season. In the last offseason, they didn't re-sign him at all. But Ryan Whitney is still on the Edmonton Oilers, and he's fighting up against the former Biz's team. So what's also ironic, though, is that Biz doesn't get signed by the Coyotes, and that first year of him not being signed, they finally make playoffs. So I think there's a little bit of a curse going on. Edmonton couldn't make by first round. Coyotes couldn't make playoffs, and the year one that Biz is out of here, they make playoffs. So I'd like to see Whitney actually take out the former team. I hope that the Coyotes wouldn't take him out without Biz actually on it, but it's still a cool little rivalry. Oh, okay. Well, I guess they probably won 4-2 then. So again, the Edmonton Oilers curse keeps up, and they're actually done now. So as we look into the history of Biz, we can't for Whitney because he's not retired yet. Who knows? He could retire soon, but not done yet. He has another contract coming off in this offseason, so I'm not sure if he'll even be on Edmonton. But for Biz, he's done. So he hasn't officially retired yet, but him being not signed already this season, he's not going to be signed at all next year. So he's dropped to a 75 overall at age 35. And now we look at his career. So as you can see at the bottom, his NHL totals, he actually did get to play 820 games, which is really good. Obviously injuries are off, but also I didn't start this until they were 24, so they could have had another 4 years if I wanted to start from the beginning, but it's not really fully realistic anyways. Also, what you can see here is during his time in the NHL, I mean, he did have some seasons like this with 97 penalty minutes, where he did have sort of tough side of him, because he is a grinder, so it's sort of weird, and his fighting is actually supposed to, like, it's high enough up, and I have his fighting set to often, so he should be fighting, but I guess maybe he tried to have a little offensive style to his game, maybe, I don't know. He decided to not scrap too many times, but then his final season, he just decided to turn back to his old self and just put up 151 penalty minutes. So he never, in his whole entire career, he never played a single game of playoffs. So I wanted to see him actually get signed by a different team near the end and maybe make a run for it with another team. But unfortunately, we didn't get to see that, and even in the AHL, they still didn't make playoffs, so he just ended up like that. And I won't go over Whitney's yet until I see that either he's retired or maybe not signed next season. We'll see. I'm not sure how they'll regress because they are created players. Okay, so we'll pick up at the next time. So as you see on the screen here, this is just a couple weeks after I just finished talking in my last clip. The Arizona Coyotes in the first season with Biz not under their roster, they win the cup. That is so weird how they didn't make a single postseason game at all. Nothing. And the year he doesn't get signed, they go on to make playoffs. They beat out Witt. They win the cup.
And also, what also is pretty weird is, if you remember back to at the beginning, whenever I showed Biz's elite prospects page, he actually he finished his like NHL career with the Phoenix Coyotes. He moved on to play one season with split teams in the AHL between Portland and Manchester, and then he was actually signed for his final 2 years of playing professional hockey in the AHL to Ontario Reign, or however you would say this team. I haven't actually heard someone say this before. So this is the affiliate for LA, and they actually win it in the exact same season, and that's how he closed off his career in real life, is playing with that exact same team. So that's pretty weird, but I just thought I'd throw that in there for now, and we'll continue on to the next part. As you can see in the retired players day that pops up where it shows all the names, the year 2031, April 23rd, Paul Bissonnette retires. So obviously he didn't play in his last season, so I knew he would retire. I was just wondering if Whitney was going to retire as well with him. But Bissonnette has 820 games played, almost 200 goals for 354 points. So obviously it says he's undrafted and stuff because I made him up. But that's pretty cool to see. He was actually a total minus 136 plus minus. So that, I mean, that's pretty funny, but it's because he was on a team that never made playoffs a single time. So that's why it was so low. He actually had 2,200 shots, 550 penalty minutes, so that's pretty good. He had 21 game winners, 76 power play points, 12 shorthanded points, and he averaged 14 minutes of playing time during his NHL career. So surprisingly, he almost took 5,000 faceoffs. That is a lot for a winger. Wow. And he actually had a pretty high standard too, like 49% faceoffs win. That's pretty high. And 1,400 career hits, 250 blocks, and actually just 15 more giveaways than takeaways. So that's pretty solid as well. So that caps it off for Biz, and we'll have to wait and see for Whit. So as we see here, Ryan Whitney finally retired. So in the top right it does say 2033, but it's actually 2034. He spent 3 years after Biz retired, still playing for the Oilers. Re-signed him a few times. He still was on their team when he retired. He put up 1,008 career points for the Oilers in 1,230 games. That's crazy, especially for defensemen. He had almost 500 goals. That is just stupid good. So we'll look into his stats here. So actually, since Biz retired, he still put up 60 points a season. So he actually won the Norris here this season, and that was the only trophy given to anyone besides his Calder that he had. That was the only trophy. So he did put up consistent 30-goal seasons every year except for 5 years. But the first 3 were all not 30s. So after the first 3 years, only twice. He put up 70 points numerous times, or a few times actually. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 3 times. 184 point season. A lot of 33 goals here, as you can see. Just outstanding. You can tell their team kind of went downhill here. They actually missed playoffs the very last year. I believe so. Yeah, the very last year. So they only made it by round 1 twice. Once here, once there. He's always done well though in the playoffs. So he definitely won the battle between him and Biz for sure. Neither of them has won a cup, but I mean they've won 1 President's Trophy for the Oilers. I don't know how they didn't win a cup, but still that's pretty impressive. And he's, even when he retired, he was still almost 26 minutes a game. So he's 38 years old when he retires, and that concludes this video. So I might try a different idea, maybe them two, seeing if they can carry a a new team. Like I can make a new team, make a 32nd team in the league, join in. So maybe I can upgrade the overalls a little bit, and see if they can carry a new incoming team to a championship. So he finished with 366 penalty minutes, and that's all for this video. So I'll leave you guys with a little page showing their comparison of the two, but I'll leave it off at this. Thank you for watching the video. We'll see you in the next one.